Начинаем с Джейкоба Коллера. Британский музыкант, который получил за первый альбом премию Грэмми, за второй альбом премию Грэмми. Парень, ну, гений, реально. Музыка мне его в большинстве своем не вкатывает. Ой. Но интересно посмотреть.
Once upon a time, a teenager in the suburbs of North London uploaded some videos to YouTube, and they became a global sensation.
Нормально вам слышно, ребят? Онлайн поднялся. Респект всем, ребят. Спасибо большое.
I'm here in North London, heading for the world of Jacob Collier.
Jacob's extraordinary a cappella harmonies went viral and caught the attention of music world legends Quincy Jones and Herbie Hancock.
Quincy Jones, продюсер Майкла Джексона. Йоу.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing, baby.
I thought I was good with harmonies. No, he was all over my stuff and past that.
Jacob's YouTube uploads turned out to be the opening act of a musical career that has been meteoric.
Да не, когда такие люди тебе сыпят такие комплименты, это уже говорит о многом.
Guest is nominated for 2 Grammys, including Album of the Year.
Jacob's multi-instrumental skills are dazzling.
So I imagine we were playing a game. Something like you could be an animal and all I had to do is be tame.
And he collaborates with music world superstars.
Nothing to lose.
He's like nothing I've ever seen before, worked with before,
Стормзи,
listened to
нихера
before.
себе. Даже граймеры респектуют Джейкобу. Ну, Лондон, йоу.
We all recognize, oh, this guy could make us sound better.
Ну, да, мы видели.
Jacob now tours the world.
Крис Мартин, да, тоже не херня. Так, ребят, у вас сейчас не лагает? Не лагает, не лагает, надеюсь. Йо-йо-йо, вроде зеленая.
And his music crosses all boundaries of genre, from pop to jazz to classical.
Крис Мартин, да ему даже Ханс Циммер респектовал. Там такой набор.
The reason he doesn't sound like he has any boundaries when he plays is because what is going in doesn't have any boundaries.
He can't help but explore.
О, вот и Ханс!
Jacob made music history by being the only British artist ever to win Grammys for each of his first 4 albums.
Все, вроде отлагало. Если начнется, скажете.
Jacob doesn't have a Hollywood mansion. When he's not touring the globe, he lives a very down-to-earth existence.
I think I'm getting warm.
He's still producing music out of a small room in the family home where he lives with his mum.
Но он маме всегда респектует на каждой церемонии. Она же вроде тоже музыкант.
Come on in.
So,
Через окно. Он не мог по-другому.
it's my favorite room in the world. This is the room. We're in the room where it happens.
Так, не, в пизду, я за кабелем. Да ёбаный твой рот, ты где? Не, так не пойдет, ребят. Что-то, блядь, проскакивает, сука. На секунду, но калит. Что за видос? Документалка про Джейкоба Коллера.
When did you first come to?
Мы слушали альбом,
I
записанный
learned to
в
walk in
этой
here,
комнате.
age 1.
На 80? Не на 80.
Every time I think about it, can't stop thinking about it.
I see this array of guitars.
Along here, yeah, all sorts of guitars, different stages of my life. This is my first guitar ever, a nylon string.
Да, обожаю британский
How old were
акцент.
you then?
Adore. I was about, I think, 14 or so.
Oh, 14.
And my first ever bass guitar was this guy, which I think was about the same time as this guy. So, age 14 or so, and it seemed so big in my hands. To me, I think whenever I play any instrument, I'm just trying to be a voice. Whether it's a piano or drums or guitar or ukulele or whatever, it's all really the same language. Like this typewriter here. That's nice.
And until now, as far as I can see, all that work I've seen of yours on YouTube, all those endless things, they were all made in this room.
Ребят, есть функция, если не интересно, не смотреть. Вот такая
It's such a cool beastie. Okay, check this out. Black velvet bag. This is my original SM58 Shure microphone.
Yeah.
Шура
Hey,
легендарная.
that's an antique.
It's an antique. And I don't mean to brag, but it smells really good. Go on, have a go.
Пахнет твоими слюнями.
This is the kind of mothership.
The mothership.
Yeah.
It was here where Jacob's ambitious experiment with harmonization, his computer wizardry, and the power of social media would all converge to change
Да,
his
Роман,
life
вначале бы
forever.
можешь мотануть.
Everybody's got a thing.
It was Jacob's arrangement of the Stevie Wonder classic, Don't You Worry About a Thing, that went viral.
Out in vain, just taking the things not worth having. Don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing, baby.
I took that song and I went absolutely nuts on it, like harmonically, because I just wanted to reach the limits of this fabric. I knew chords and I knew the piano, but it wasn't enough. I wanted to go further. I wanted to go deeper.
Бля, почему у него нет фита с Канье Уэстом? Вот они бы сошлись, мне кажется, на этой херне.
I was doing all this stuff. I didn't understand what I was doing, but I was doing microtones, notes between notes on the piano. And some of these notes, like this one, see, that's a quarter tone. You can't play that on a piano. You have to do that by ear because it doesn't exist on the piano. It goes da 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 like this. It goes between the two notes.
Yeah.
The things which always surprise me about Jacob is his
Бля, понимаете, чел
knowledge
делает...
of how to get in between the cracks
Да,
of the
да,
rest of the
да,
scale,
вот,
and, you know, those-
вот не зря чел гений. Он привел идеальный пример. Он исполняет то, что даже на пианино сыграть невозможно. То есть он голосом выстраивает все
those
эти
quarter tone
херни,
things he
блин.
does, you know,
Все эти
which,
интервалы.
way beyond me.
And here, I actually managed to find session.
Не знаю, Максим, но я бы выбрал второе. На мой взгляд, лучше быть как Виктор Цой, чем как Джейкоб Коллер, правда.
You can recognize, and that's almost what all musicians are after. And when they start, they're trying to sound like somebody else, but actually, what they want is their own sound. Whether you like it or you don't like it, doesn't matter. So you recognize, oh, that's them, that's their sound, that's their voice.
If you isolate the parts,
Standing on the side when you check it.
they sound
Охеренные
really strange.
субтитры, кстати.
Cause I'll be standing on the side when you check it. Cause I'll be standing on the side when you check it.
And in the end, when you combine those,
Cause I'll be standing on the side when you check it.
and then these chords are incredibly dense, complex chords.
And you get off your trip.
Really dense, jazz-inspired, classical-inspired chords. And all I'm thinking about is the way in which the notes move between each other as melodies. And then, does it feel good? And otherwise, there are no rules.
So much of what he does is at the edge of the impossible.
Don't you worry about it.
Jacob's homage to the Stevie Wonder classic also contains a multi-instrumental flourish. The guitar, mandolin, double bass, keyboard, piano, djembe drums, and other percussion instruments are all being played by Jacob.
Ну, мультиинструменталист, да, очевидно.
Anyway, it got to the point where the video was done, and I put "Don't Worry About a Thing" by Stevie Wonder, original.
Да не,
format,
конечно,
Jacob Collier,
Максим,
in this
такие
typeface
люди,
font.
ну, необходимы
And
так или иначе.
There's always a moment when you get that feeling when you think, am I ready to do this? I'm not quite sure, because it's very personal, all this stuff for me, you know, all the process of layering these tracks and filming these videos and all this stuff takes time, and obviously you're excited to share it, but I remember there was a part of me that said, Jacob, are you sure that...
В конце концов, рано или поздно может найтись человек, который использует его наработки, но применит их в более простом каком-то ключе.
Jacob at that time said,
и такая музыка будет
I'm ready
попсой.
to release it and give it away into the world. And I said, I really understand that. I think you'll make people's lives a lot better if you do. But I have a feeling, Jacob, that if you do put it out there, that nothing will ever be the same again.
You take that leap and you don't know what's going to happen after you take that leap. And this is a screenshot of the moment I pressed upload. Here it says, no views.
Прикиньте, охереть.
From this exact
Вот
second
это
onwards, the view
память.
count started to climb. And it climbed faster than I'd ever seen anything climb before of mine.
Я до этого не
and, yeah, within a
додумался.
couple of days, I think it was about 100,000. So I put it on Bandcamp,
Чел
which is the website,
просто
you know, it's like
загрузил
£1,
первое
download
видео и заскринил.
And I'm looking at my email thinking, someone's having a laugh. This blew my mind. And this is an email I received from Bandcamp. Bada boom, it says, another £12. Greetings, Jacob Collier. Herbie Hancock has just bought a cart full of Don't You Worry About a Thing, Pure Imagination, I Wouldn't Be For Money, Isn't Shelby, I've Tried a Little Star. And then I received this little message that came with it. It says, wow, Jacob, your stuff is amazing. Please keep expanding in your life as well as in your music. I believe that craft may be about melody, rhythm, and harmony of the notes, but music is about life.
Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
I will never forget the first time I
Не,
saw
ну это просто
his
охереть,
YouTube
правда,
video on Don't You Worry About a Thing. It blew my mind.
Ну вот условно говоря, да, вот грубо говоря, прикиньте, ты какой-нибудь там шкет, который что-то, блядь, дома у себя записал, выгрузил на YouTube и получаешь письмо типа «Йоу, блядь, салют, это доктор Дре, ебать, ты крутой». Ну нихера себе.
And he was a teenager.
И это сейчас, вот знаете, люди часто упускают из виду вот такой момент, что это сейчас кажется, что, ну блин, ну это Джейкоб Кольер, да, ему написал Херби Хэнкок, ну да, все вроде естественно. Но на тот момент он-то тоже был каким-то там, ну, щеглом откуда-то там, который просто сидел и дома экспериментировал. То есть вы легко можете, ну, условно представить себя на его месте.
Swimming in Herbie Hancock, harmonically, pianistically, pocket, you know, I was just obsessed with him. And so here he is in my Gmail inbox, and I couldn't believe my eyes.
The day that Jacob uploaded the video, Don't You Worry About a Thing, it was everywhere. We got messages on Quincy's Facebook. Some of my artists had forwarded it to me. I was like, okay, I gotta show this to Quincy.
Quincy Jones is one of the world's most acclaimed music producers. Over 6 decades, he's worked with Aretha Franklin, Frank Sinatra, Stevie Wonder, and Miles Davis, to name just a few.
And I showed it to Quincy, and Quincy just lost his mind. He said, I don't care what you're doing right now. I don't care how busy you are. Find this kid.
And so I get this email from actually someone on Quincy's team saying, Quincy's just seen Don't You Worry About a Thing and just freaked out and just wants to get on Skype. Are you down? I said, yeah, I'm down. Of course, when?
So you're how old now, 18?
By this point I was 19 and I woke up at 7 in the morning. You can see the morning sunshine here coming through the window.
Yeah.
This is the moment.
You captured it.
I did. I thought, you know what, I might just screenshot this.
What else would you do with him? Not call him?
Квинси тоже культура. Вопросов ноль, блин. Чел помог Майклу Джексону стать тем, кто он есть.
Through rhythm, melody, and harmony, you have to make it work. Jacob knows how to make it work.
The first thing he said was, man, where'd you get those chords?
Whatever he does blows my mind. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But he's that way with anything he touches, though. And that's what hypnotized me when I first saw him.
And action.
Today, Jacob's musical identity and multi-instrumental talents are complemented by his collection of flamboyant shirts.
Но я говорю, это просто музыка для музыкантов. Ну, мне не хватает познания, чтобы вот как Квинси Джонс или Ханс Циммер в полной мере оценить его гений. Короче, давайте досмотрим документалочку. Блин, честно, мне было интересно, правда, блядь. Ну, кто ж знал, что спустя 15 минут до них дойдет. Я потом склею и перезалью отдельно.
So I want to start at the beginning, right at the beginning. What is your first musical memory? What do you retain now?
First musical memory, I would probably say, was sitting in that room over there, which is the music room of the house. Sitting on my mum's lap and watching her play the violin above my head. And that was my first experience of music and one of my first memories ever, actually.
My dad said to me, the moment Jacob popped out, he said, "You just got to just keep playing to him. Play him the lullaby. Play him anything."
I picked up the violin around that time. I'd say probably 18 months to 2 years old. And by age 4 or 5, I'd...
Ну тут видите, тут вся династия получается.
Pretty much given up.
Did it disappoint you that Jacob didn't take up the violin?
Oh, that's really interesting.
I was impatient for results. I wanted to hear a sound the moment that I could conceive it. So a drum or a piano would go bang or smash. But a violin, it takes a year or so at least to even make one note sound good on the violin.
Was I disappointed? No, absolutely not. I mean, the child showed me already that he was so aware of the sound world. You don't need to have the violin.
Susie Collier is a classical violinist, conductor, and professor of music.
Okay. But you're going to really stop the bow with so much power.
Jacob's mother, Susie, she is an incredible, a really amazing teacher of music. I learn things when I've, again, through the modern world of Instagram, I watch her and I learn things. And you think, wow, that's great. I wish somebody had said that. I'm really pleased I know that now.
There's a story, isn't there, about your Hoover?
There is a story about our Hoover. It's really true. One day the Hoover's on.
Давайте, наверное, все, ребята,
And I
на
simply
сегодня
say,
в плане заказов.
what do you think that
Досмотрим и
note is?
разойдемся.
Your mother came in with a Hoover and asked you to tell her what note it was.
That's true.
Спасибо большое всем.
How did you respond?
It was a funny thing because obviously when you're growing up, there's sounds all around you. And many of those sounds are pitched sounds. You know, the kettle goes boing, or the Hoover turns on, or the microwave beeps, or the car alarm, whatever.
Он же сейчас из пылесоса песню сделает.
And so what she began to kind of enable in me was a sense of curiosity about how that note feels or felt.
Sing that note. See if you can kind of resonate with it and just get the same frequency.
Это было предсказуемо.
I have a sense that music somehow is embedded in your DNA. Where does it come from?
I had musical parents. They were both violinists. And this was my father's violin, which he bestowed upon
Ну да,
me when
видите,
I was a
тут мама
student.
музыкант,
And he
дед
said to me, I
музыкант,
think
тут
this
это
is the
испокон
violin for
веков.
you. I think it will really match your personality and it'll bring out the warmth in your playing.
Your mother,
Yes,
your brother,
indeed.
there's you, and that's your father in the background. Yeah.
That's my father. My mother was Chinese-Canadian. She ended up coming
Охренеть, они
over
похожи.
and went to the Royal College of Music. My dad was the younger student at the Royal Academy of Music, and in the end, they met. I moved into this house in 1989. From that moment, we've made music in every single room in this house.
Okay.
Мне кажется, мы все наши ретро-записи потеряли уже, семейные.
I would just go over there and press the play button on the CD player and just wonder what would come out.
У этого
Mozart.
есть крутой клип у Эда Ширана. Его, видимо, с детства дали на музыку, и родители с детства все снимали, фотографировали, как он играет, как он учится. И у него есть, по-моему, песня «Фотография» или «Фотограф».
Herbie Hancock,
там клип
Bar.
как раз из
Benjamin
этой
Britten,
нарезки.
obviously.
Как у Эминема Mockingbird.
Britain was earth-shattering to me because it redefined the whole of what it meant to be a singer, a musician, a composer, a harmonist.
Это же наука целая так-то, блин.
It could be anything by Sting.
It was huge for me, Sting, to
Высшее
stand on that
образование
bass and sing.
получают.
And he was the first person I ever saw do that at the same time. So, oh, so you can do both. On heavy rotation were people like Stevie Wonder and Bobby McFerrin.
Макферрин. Человек, чью песню причисляют к авторству Боба Марли.
He was the
Don't
absolute
worry,
master,
be
still is
happy.
the master at using his voice to be many instruments at once.
It could be anything by Earth, Wind and Fire.
Тоже культовая группа.
From a very early age, complex harmonizations caught Jacob's ear, especially the gospel-inspired a cappella group Take Six.
Take Six is one of my absolute favorites of all time. Doing this insane modulation in harmony.
At around 6 years old, Jacob was given his first Casio keyboard and a Cubase software program. The means for starting a music room revolution were now in his
Да,
hands.
чел в натуре просто в комнате
Let me take you right
революцию
back.
совершил.
This is 2006, so I was 11 and then turning 12. And I was obsessed with maths, and I was also obsessed with music, and so my
Не
solution
знаю,
to this
ребят,
problem
это подстегивает,
was to,
это
was to
мотивирует, это
harmonize the time.
вдохновляет. Не знаю, как вас, но как человек, который уже, блядь, второй год, третий год не может доделать блядскую епишку, ну, блин. Это ж просто охереть.
Tables with my little 12-year-old voice. No one's ever heard these before. This is the first time I've ever showed anyone this, really. Well, let's do, let's see, 3.
3 times deeper. 3 times deeper.
You've doubled your voice up.
Yeah, that's 2 voices. Now 3 voices. And I'm playing bass.
Что-то она во власти
Here we
чувств
go now.
похожа. Он действительно могет. Да, с этим вообще никто не спорит. Просто это прям не для всех, не для всех.
While he was working on the times tables, they would be completely caught in our heads, and we would
Сколько ему
know those
лет?
tables back to front.
4?
Stuff that he's been into, and
Чел
stuff that he's been
музыку
working on
вокруг
has
таблицы
been a
умножения
huge part of the
построил.
kind of soundtrack to my life.
Here we go.
1 times 7 is 7.
Okay.
2 times 7 is 14. 3 times 7 is 21. 4 times
My whole family would get sick of it, just so sick of this recording.
I don't really remember it driving me crazy. I think you kind of just get into the groove of it.
Инструментально смеется.
What's it called, Ella? Yeah.
A lot of people might assume that there was a massive musical rivalry between us as siblings, but I think it would have been hard if I'd been trying to be a professional musician, you know, but my day job is to be a structural engineer. Music is so intrinsic to what our family is. It's not really a question of rivalry. I think there's been much more of a focus on the joy of making music often together.
When Jacob was 10, his parents separated, and his mother, Susie, raised 3 children on her own.
Бля, вы знаете, что самое вот, что мы за всеми вот этими угарами упускаем из виду, помимо того, что у чела абсолютный слух, он круто поет, у него огромный вокальный диапазон, он мультиинструменталист, он, этого уже достаточно с лихвой, но он не какой-то там сессионный музыкант, не просто собрал свою группу, написал хиты условно. Он голосом выстраивает интервалы, что к нему потом подходит, Ханс Циммер или Квинси Джонс и говорит, а как вот это вот сыграть? А он говорит, а никак ты это не сыграешь на пианино. Ебанись.
You have been a single mum for many years. So it's quite an achievement for you having been able to do this, to harmonize your family,
Коля, спасибо большое,
to create this sort of sense of achievement. Are there tough times you've been through? Are there times when people you feel this is too much, you can't cope with it?
Но он докидывал. Все, в конце глянем там небольшой шорт. Спасибо большое.
Then it becomes such a huge and overpowering thing. Do we experience the darkest of times? Absolutely. Absolutely. But positive energy, I think, is always somehow in there, pervading the very, very darkest of times.
Ты дождись, главное.
In terms of the life bumps that he and his family have been
Интересный
through,
факт. Если вы загуглите Крис Мартин, почти все фотки будут с его дамами.
That's also a blessing because I think that's where his drive comes from. The thing that's like, right, I'm gonna make something of this.
You like to perform, that engagement with the audience is something. So this is obviously something from very early on. Did you ever want to be an actor?
I had a moment where acting surfaced in my life, which is really fun.
Oh, what a day, I don't care if
Да не, Коля, мы посмотрим, все нормально.
9-year-old Jacob played Tiny Tim in a film
В смысле, он еще и
Christmas
актер?
Carol, starring Kelsey Grammer.
I started singing lessons at age 8, and they went till I was about 13 years old.
I think the work on the Christmas Carol film was really important, and we both spent a long time out in Budapest.
Tiny Tim, if I may, young sir.
Here's his coat, Mother. Wait, we're coming. Oh, thank you, Mr. Scrooge.
Why, you're as light as a feather. I believe we shall become fast friends, young man, you and I.
I could tell that he was taking in all sorts of ideas about direction.
I never really seriously considered it, partly because I was never very good at pretending. It's one of the reasons why, in some ways, the music industry can be a weird place to be, because so many people are performing and exaggerating themselves the whole time, and it's all really... And I think my approach to performance is always just to sort of do the thing. The first instrument I truly gravitated towards was the piano. This is my original double bass.
Yeah, it's quite a beauty.
It wasn't until I was about 14 until I picked up the bass, which is my next instrument. And something about standing with an instrument as well. These two beasties are called arpeggios. The way this instrument works is you lay it on the floor, or you can put it on a keyboard stand. And the first tune I ever learnt on the arpeggio was this James Taylor song called Carolina in My Mind. And this was sort of the first challenge, because I thought if I can play this song, it will unlock lots of other songs that I can then play. And I haven't played it in ages. And it goes something like this.
Чтобы вы понимали, я эту ебалду даже никогда в жизни не видел.
I had been really obviously obsessed with chords for some time. And I think lots of young musicians often come up against this moment where they think, well, I don't know what I need to know next, but I want to get to that next stage. When I was about 14 years old, a family friend introduced me to a piano player called Gwilym Simcock. And I managed to go to a gig that he was doing. And it was a huge moment for me because I realized, hearing Gwilym, that I didn't know anything about the piano. but that there was so much I wanted to learn.
Да, а вот рядом с тобой, Джейкоб, любой скажет, я ничего не знаю о музыке.
At the end I said, you know, Gwilym, I'm such a
что смотрите документалку про гения из мира музыки.
I think he must have been about 14 or 15 at that time. There's a long way for many musicians to go at that stage, and I've taught many people over the years, and of course at that stage you're a lot of the time dealing a lot more with the rudiments.
And he said, well, play me something. So I played him something, I can't remember what I played him now, probably a simple jazz standard or something that I knew. And I basically used these 6 fingers here. I didn't use these ones, I just did this. So I would play with these really, really dense chords, and because that's what I knew that he loved as well.
It seems like a million years ago now, but I do remember kind of some of his responses to the things I was suggesting and just his general approach to what we were looking at.
He told me something that kind of surprised me and slightly miffed me, which was, I think you should practice some scales. That's what he said. He said, when you have technique, then your technique will give your ears ideas. And I always thought that your ears dictated everything. If you heard it, you could play it, because that was my experience. What I didn't realize is if you give yourself
Вообще, это очень важная херня. Понятное дело, что можно прожить и без этого, обойтись без этого. Но когда ты знаешь теорию, это, в разы упрощает все. Это как идти, блядь, с картой и без карты. По-другому никак. Да, ты можешь тыкать на ощупь, подбирать аккорды, а можешь знать, там условно, если ты знаешь какой-нибудь квартоквинтовый круг, ты сразу знаешь, что вот с этим аккордом сочетается вот этот, а вот этот не сочетается, значит, я не буду тратить на него свое время, чем тут, блядь, сидеть и тыкать все по очереди. Понятное дело, что это не панацея, но это сильно упрощает.
That's greater than your ears, then your ears just sponge up all the technique and grow as well.
Как-то ты и за рулем рано или поздно поймешь,
You know, everything is basically self-taught with him, so the fact that some of the music that I've made has had a nice impact on him is very, very special for me.
At around 2011, so when I was 16, 17, that's when I made my first ever YouTube video, which was called Serendipity. This was the first moment I tried to make something that I could look at to go with what I was hearing.
So you're actually trying different things, absorbing different things, understand where you're going and where the journey is taking. And as you say, you then have
Exactly. Yeah, and I didn't know where I was going, but I just tried as much as I possibly could. So from times tables to covering pop songs to eventually harmonizing jazz tunes. I wasn't thinking too much about what I was doing. I was just doing things that were the most satisfying to me. I kept uploading these videos, and each time I'd upload one, it would be another little bump of audience members or whatever.
I found Jacob because I was half asleep listening to a playlist of choral music. And I woke up in the middle of this piece by someone called Jacob Collier, and I thought, he must be from the 16th century. And he immediately just won my heart. And I'd only heard one piece at that point.
I entered the rabbit hole on YouTube of like all his amazing videos, like him performing, him doing his harmonies, of like him doing the covers, and yeah, it's like a magician at work. That
because Jacob's come up during social media where you have direct communication with your audience, that there's no middleman at all. It's all perfectly suited to him, just reaching you directly.
He really was born at the right time.
And then came this arrangement of a Stevie Wonder song called Don't You Worry About a Thing.
Don't you worry about a
thing. He was so in love with Don't You Worry About a Thing, and later the fascinating rhythm cover that Jacob did as well, that he would start every single meeting by showing those two videos to whoever he was meeting with. It didn't matter if that was Paul McCartney or Queen Rania. He would show that video and say, I've never seen anything like this, have you? So we invited him to come meet us in person for the first time at the Montreux Jazz Festival in Montreux, Switzerland.
So I thought, okay, well, I'll go then.
Это был Фред? Там, по-моему, ему... Да.
I met him at the airport. We went back to Montreux together.
We entered this hotel lobby and there was Quincy at this piano.
And the two of us surprised Quincy, and Quincy jumped up from his chair and was like, Jacob Collier!
And he was like, man, show me some of those chords you were playing. And he's saying, what are those chords? Don't you worry about a thing. And I'm saying, oh, it was this chord. And then, oh, actually, you can't play this next chord because it has a microtone in it. You can't play it on the piano. That note doesn't exist. And he's like, wow, that's cool. Let's go to the jam.
Вот об этом речь, блядь. Квинси Джонс, человек, который собаку съел на всей этой херне, такой, ты как это сыграл? Как? А Джейкоб такой, а никак ты это не сыграешь.
I'd like you to get ready for some real serious talent here.
And Quincy gets the mic and says, right, I want to introduce you to a young man, Jacob Collier. So I stand up and I play My Funny Valentine.
Unscheduled late-night jams are a Montreux tradition.
There's Herbie Hancock sitting there, and I'm thinking,
what a day.
What a day. You know, and my buffer is just full. I'm like,
When I got a chance to hear him in Montreux, that's when I got a chance to
То, как он их обнял, это уже смело.
really hear his jazz chops. That's what we call that, right? And he's got the jazz chops, that's for sure.
Something happened.
Your looks are laughable.
Something kind of clicked.
Unphotographable.
And I just sort of felt like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I think I'm in the right place at the right time.
When you meet an artist for the first time,
Ну, давайте честно.
Your priority is...
Просто бывают прям вот люди искусства, вот прям с головы до пят, вот прям они пронизаны этим. Я люблю музыку, обожаю музыку, но у меня нету вот такого, что вот от каждой песни я такой, о, бой, я прям чувствую эту магию. Нет, блядь, ну не нравится, ну душная какая-то херня. Есть слушаю, думаю, блин, божественно. А вот есть люди, как Квинси Джонс, которые типа... Вы просто представьте, какой кайф они с этого ловят.
Is to get to know them and their dreams.
And then that night, after hanging out with all these people for so long and jamming in the jam for 4 hours, whatever, I go up to Quincy's hotel room and I sat on this balcony with Adam. And Adam said,
You know, what are you after with all of this? What do you want to do with your life?
I said, I don't know, man. I don't want to be jazz Jacob with a trio. I don't want to be pop Jacob with a mic. I don't want to be rock and roll Jacob at the front. I think I need some time to figure it out. I'm not sure.
Jacob has always kind of known
вот это вопрос, да,
what he wants to say yes to and why. And he said,
ты приезжаешь к великим людям, ты весь такой себя талантливый, и тебе говорят, а дальше ты что с этим будешь делать? И ты такой, бля, не думал.
Said, I really don't know. Maybe not. And when that call was made, Adam said, well, Quincy would really like to manage Jacob. I said, would it be possible to be friends first? And it's gone down in history because obviously no one's going to say no to Quincy Jones.
I wouldn't characterize it as him turning, you know, working with us down. I think it was just him being cautious.
What I made clear was, look, I have so much respect for Quincy, but I need to do this on my own.
It was on that call that we made the famous decision to start off just being friends. We started helping in every way.
Кстати, для этого нужно иметь кокошки. Прикиньте? Тебе говорят, бля, сам Квинси Джонс хочет с тобой работать. А ты такой, нет, спасибо, я сам.
We could.
And a couple of months later, Adam had somehow found a way to secure me a gig, my first ever gig, which was opening for Herbie Hancock and Chick Corea at the Montreux Jazz Festival, summer of 2015. And suddenly, I had a direction. That's the moment when I received a Facebook message from a man named Ben Bloomberg.
I saw this video, it was Don't You Worry About a Thing, and I sent a Facebook message saying, hey, I think you're really awesome. I love to build things. If you ever are interested in something to build or have any questions about technology, let me know.
As a music and technology innovator, Ben Bloomberg worked on the MIT Media Lab program, Opera of the Future. He also collaborated with pop stars Ariana Grande and Bjork.
The original message that Ben sent to Jacob through Facebook ended up in Jacob's spam in his email. And maybe a couple weeks later, Jacob happened upon it and forwarded the message to me. I looked at the message and said, oh man, this guy's from MIT. We need to reach out to him.
And then all of a sudden I got a message back. They had been offered a huge performance opportunity, and it was going to be Jacob's first real performance ever.
I got on Skype with Ben, and I explained this idea I have of a one-man show where I could be at the center of a circle of instruments, and I could be somehow...
Не, я все еще в ахере с того факта, как он отказал Куинси Джонсу. Ну, просто представьте, да, вот условно ты там какой-нибудь рэпер, и тебе говорит доктор Дре, типа, йо, чел, ты хорош, давай я тебя буду продюсировать. Я доктор Дре, твою мать. Ты такой, да, не, пожалуй, не стоит.
Playing them all at once. Basically doing what I do at home in stop time, but doing it in real time. And also that at the center of this kind of beast, I wanted to have this instrument where I could sing any note and I could play harmonies and you'd hear my voice singing all the notes of the chords. I wanted a way to stand on stage and go, and if you'd hear 12 voices come out, basically.
The harmonizer was one of the first things that we thought about.
Jacob would fly to Boston, and in Ben's apartment, they would create the prototype for a one-of-a-kind harmonizer, which would accompany Jacob on his first official Montreux Jazz Festival performance.
Jacob! "20 years old. I promise you, you've never seen this before, heard this before. Never!"
Ну и круто, что Джонс не обиделся, да, тоже не
And it was like time stood still a little bit. It was like, well, here we go. Like, this is the start of something. I'm sort of standing there like this, playing. And I'm nailing all my musical parts. I mean, that was fine. But just furtive looking. I was basically inside my room. I hadn't left the room yet, you know.
And you were in front of hundreds of people.
3,000 people, yeah. And they, you know, they didn't know, who's this boy in his pajamas on stage, you know. And it was the start of learning how to work with an audience.
Вот это тоже не все понимают, но это же классно. То, что чел вышел, ну, в своей домашней одежде, условно. Понятное дело, что он мог надеть смокинг, и в этом тоже есть свой какой-то шарм. Но это же символично, что вот он ведь так начал, он так пришел к тому, что сейчас имеет.
Video looping system for his live performances.
At the time that he performed, I wasn't thinking about his age. I wanted to hear his music. It was amazing. He's such an amazing talent. And he plays all these instruments, drums, and bass, and guitar, and percussion.
The Montreux gig would ignite Jacob's professional career.
Thank you, Montreux. Following this gig in Montreux, I'd sort of gained a little bit of confidence. Oh, I think I know what I'm doing. I think I'm ready to make an album now. I had this idea on a flight heading back home around that time that there was this amazing Beach Boys song called In My Room. And I'd always loved that song. And I always felt it's close to my heart because it's about this world that you make in your room that's a safe kind of world, and you can go and you can dream in the room, and you can, you just do my dreaming and my scheming. It's a gorgeous tune.
In my room.
And I thought, well, why don't we call the album In My Room? And I'll do the song on the album.
Символично.
I want to make this album. I just want to do it myself, for better or worse. I want to do it on my own, with my own ideas at the heart of it. And I felt like really what I wanted to do was I wanted the album to represent this world that I've created. I came up with this idea for fundraising for the album that I thought would be pretty fun. I thought, why don't I get people, fans in the world, to send me little melody clips, 15 seconds in length, of them singing, a song they made up or a song they like. Or...
Блядь, то есть я думал, он скажет, почему бы не попросить людей прислать мне денег, а он прислать мне мелодий. Вот в этом он и уникален.
Some improvising or whatever. And then you pledge, I think it was $100 for this campaign, and in return I'll harmonize your melody and put it on my social media.
Все равно.
A brainwave. It was one of those ideas that he came up with.
I think it was a song they made up or a song they like or some improvising or whatever. And then you pledge, I think it was $100 for this campaign, and in return I'll harmonize your melody and put it on my social media.
It was a brainwave. It was one of those ideas that he came up with that he just ran with.
Someday when I'm awfully low and the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you. Someday when I'm awfully low and the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you.
I think I loved the ones that weren't necessarily amazing singers, but they did something really heartfelt.
You got to keep it mellow. Ooh, ooh.
And Jacob sort of magnified that into something that is just really moving to watch. They're so giving.
Но он действительно ожиданно зазвучал.
In some ways, that's when Jacob's at his strongest. When he takes something that's ready-made and he's able to transform it into something completely different, which can then bring a lot of joy, not only to the original creator, but I think to everyone who listens to it.
It was so cool because it was like solving Sudoku puzzles. It was like, oh, today I'm harmonizing this person who is singing in a language I don't speak.
Vengo del otro lado del
charco, a song I don't know.
Del otro lado del río, del otro lado del charco. Vengo del otro lado del charco, vengo del otro lado del río, vengo del otro lado del charco.
Some of them were really challenging. Like, there was one baby who did one. Soleil May was her name. She's from Iceland.
When you say a baby, how old was she?
She was probably 1 or 2.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
In my mind, really interesting kind of microtonal stuff was going on because there was no pitch reference. It was just free from all pitch.
How I wonder what you are. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. How I wonder what you are.
It was able to transcend so many different barriers. So never mind where you were in the world, who you are in the world, whether you can just about put a tune together, whether you're 5 years old and you're just learning how to sing. So many people's stories underpin those IAHARMUs.
La 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 la. La 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 la.
All right, here we go. Selfie mode.
Гений.
All yours.
Так.
Take it away. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to
очень много басов.
carry me home. Wow. Come on. Bring it through. Outstanding work.
Good for that. It's great.
Insane.
Am I in the wrong profession? Swing low, sweet chariot.
Нет, Джейка переиграл.
Coming for to carry me home.
Ну правда, вы ж слышали, как он пел и как все. Да блин, хорош собака.
Sweet chariot, coming for.
Хотя сольно звучало, ну, не прям на аплодисменты.
The I Harm You enterprise would help Jacob top up the budget for his first album.
You know, I realized how much work it is to make an album. I kind of thought about the different kinds of things I wanted to do. I wanted to incorporate guitars, which I hadn't really done that much. I wanted to do a couple of cool a cappella moments, because that was where I come from. I wanted it to be harmonically weird and have cool rhythms in it. I mean, really, I just wrote 11 songs. There's a lot of mixing, there's mastering to be done.
The final mix of Jacob's new album would take place in LA.
We were trying to find a specific console that could interface with the software he uses to produce and record and mix his music with. It just so happened to be that Hans Zimmer's studio had that console.
I went to Hans Zimmer's studio in Los Angeles, and I went there with Bem.
Hans Zimmer is one of Hollywood's most acclaimed film composers. He worked on 6 Christopher Nolan films, including Inception and the Batman trilogy.
Один из лучших всех времен.
You know, we did 3 movies, 3 Batman movies, and people think, oh, it's 3 movies. It's not 3 movies, it's 16 years of my life. What I didn't know was that Quincy Jones had booked my other studio for Jacob to work in. And I remember one day, you know, coming out of my room, going into the kitchen to make a cup of coffee. And there was a guy who was just making a cup of tea and he was going off into the other studio. And I'm going, it's really weird, there's this kid here and he looks just like Jacob Collier. And so we said, that is Jacob Collier.
Now we know how to tweak crap. We took the tracks out of Logic in groups and we mixed the album on a console together, which was really cool. Can we take out some low end of that as well?
Inevitably what happened was that Jacob just turned my studio into his bedroom, and the front door opens and it's like, Herbie Hancock's coming in, Chick Corea's coming. I mean, it's like all my heroes, they're all coming through my studio, not to see me, they're coming to see Jacob.
This stuff is good.
Quincy and Herbie would just come and hang out.
How are you?
You know, we'd be working on a song and Herbie and Quincy would drop by 4 p.m. and they'd stay till the early hours of the morning, bopping their heads and singing along.
Короче, кто попадал когда-нибудь в ситуацию, когда ты шкет, и вокруг тебя общаются там старшие, так называемые, и вот в момент, когда ты хоть чуть-чуть вот можешь зайти за своего, чтобы они относились к тебе с уважением, на равных, ты сразу такой, я хорош, или шутку какую-нибудь вбросил, или еще что-то, на тебя обратили внимание не просто снисходительно, а прям вот заценили, ты такой, ебой. А теперь прикиньте, когда просто мастодонты, ветераны просто приходят по студиям посмотреть на тебя, поработать с тобой.
There's a chord that's really unruly chord.
Jacob always surprises me. Always comes up with things I don't expect.
It got to that point and Herbie goes, oh man, well, stop. And we stop it and it's like, what is that chord? And I was like, oh, it's this. And it's like, oh, you know.
Oh, okay.
So he hears that chord and he just can't believe he's heard it.
Я говорю, ну это надо прям шарить.
What?
What was that? He's never come up with something that I object to. He may be just questioning what he had and what he was going to do with it.
И читая между строк, да, а вы представьте, сколько Херби и Квинси Джонс, ну, повидали талантливых ребят на своем веку.
We just have such a nice kind of chemistry, me and Herbie, because we both just geek out about the same kind of chords. D major 7. D major 7. You get like the dominant at the top, but the major 7.
Oh yeah. I love that. I love that.
It was one of the most magical couple of weeks of my whole life.
He was leaving to go back to London. He's on his way to the airport, and we're talking on the phone. I think he phoned me to just say thank you for letting me use the studio. And right at the end, just before the phone cuts off, before he has to get out of the cab, I'm going, are you ever interested in doing a movie? And he goes, yeah, of course.
You can sing what you want.
Jacob finished mastering his first album and landed a Hollywood gig with Hans Zimmer on a new animated...
Блин, ну вот здесь ему, наверное, лет 20, сейчас ему меньше 30. Сколько ему? Мне кажется, ему 29 или сколько? Джейкоб Кольер. Кольер, блядь. 29 лет. Покорять начал уже в 20. Это надо быть задротом. Да просто, ну, вдумайтесь, ну, насколько. Вот я сомневаюсь, что есть гитарист, который сыграет, ну, перед Полом Гилбертом так, что Пол Гилберт такой, бля, это невозможно. Вряд ли. Он скажет, ну, круто играешь. Вы думаете, найдется рэпер, который зачитает рэп так, что Эминем скажет, чел, чел. И он скажет, молодец, хорошо рэп читает.
Feature, Boss Baby.
You can do it today.
Marcos, wait! Where are you?
I think working on music for film is a gorgeous challenge.
In July of 2016, Jacob's first album, In My Room, was released.
Take me anywhere you want to go.
It contained 8 original songs
Кстати, у него
and
интересный
3
текст.
covers.
In my hideaway.
Every instrument on the album I played, every arrangement I put together.
There's a song of love that never dies.
One of the arrangements was for the TV cartoon classic of the 60s, The Flintstones.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. They're a modern Stone Age family.
My album came out and I thought, this is what people do, isn't it? They have albums that come out and then they go on tour.
I won't have it you no more.
With the help of Ben Bloomberg, the Jacob Collier dream of taking his music room on the road would become a reality.
It started out with the US tours, just the two of us. A show every single day in a different city.
It was just me and Ben on the road. So Ben was the entirety of the crew and I was the entirety of the band.
It was completely overwhelming.
Тексты классные. Да-да-да, здорово. Короче, смотри, не получилось посмотреть на YouTube без авторских прав. Я, наверное, потом склею кусок, который мы посмотрели на YouTube, и, надеюсь, успею скачать с Твича, потом перезалью. А так, конечно, хорош. Но в этом никто не сомневался. Так. То же самое.
And we thought we could never do it again like this. We're not gonna make it.
We were so tired and ill at the end of that tour, you know, we just wrecked, but so fun, you know, so fun, so amazing to share these songs that I'd made and play them for people.
The world tour would keep Jacob and Ben on the road for months.
Thank you so much. One morning, I'm just sleeping on Ben's sofa. He wakes me up in the morning and I'm thinking, what is it? And he says, dude, you just got nominated for 2 Grammys. And I said,
Да, он же и первым альбомом Грэмми заберет, и вторым. Ну, кстати, не могу сказать, что он прям в узких кругах известен. У него все-таки миллионы просмотров на клипах, прослушиваний, тоже десятки миллионов.
When, you know, it was announced that he was nominated for 2 Grammys, I remember screaming at the top of my lungs. You know, the whole team jumping up and down and celebrating.
And I said, yeah, did that really happen? Was it a dream? And he said, no, it's genuinely just happened today.
The 2 Grammy nominations were for the arrangements of You and I by Stevie Wonder and the Flintstones.
And the Grammy goes to Jacob Collier for You and I.
In his category, Jacob was the youngest Grammy winner in history.
Thank you to Mr. Quincy Jones, his team, Adam Fell and Michael Payer, amongst others, are here tonight. Thank you to my wonderful...
Suddenly, it feels very serious, the whole thing. It doesn't feel like just my experiment continuing. It feels like, oh, there's consequence.
And the night wasn't over.
And the Grammy Award goes to...
He needs to come back out.
Once more, he needs to come back out. Jacob Collier for Flintstones, my friends.
People are watching, you know, people who aren't your fans are watching. I think it was the first time I'd ever thought that. People who aren't Jacob fans are paying attention to what Jacob is doing now. Should we do some drums?
Yes.
Okay. I never identified with one instrument as being my thing. In the same way I did with genre, in a sense. I used to sit in this room and think, I don't need anybody. I can do everything on my own. But when you really sit and think about it, nothing is ever truly isolated, you know.
Jacob's next album would take on the challenge of collaborating with and composing for a 50-piece orchestra for the first time in his life.
I wanted to do something with other people. Because I'd done so much on my own for so long, I wanted to stretch out and I wanted to collaborate.
It was the Quincy Jones team who introduced Jacob to the Metropole Orchestra and its conductor, Jules Buckley.
Jules Buckley said he wanted to do like an orchestral collaborative project.
And your mother was performing?
She was in the orchestra, yeah. We all went to Holland, to Hilversum, and recorded. That was my first time writing for orchestra, really. I did the orchestration and I wrote it all out on paper. This is a whole new world for me. You know, I'd never written for orchestra before. But to have
вот
a piece
это меня
that
еще
being...
со школы впечатляло на уроках музыки. Написать оркестровочку. Это ж просто охереть. Это просто охереть.
Played by an orchestra, I wanted to make it really special.
Jacob's ambitions would expand into a series of 4 albums. The first would be orchestral, the next acoustic, the third would be primarily pop, and the 4th album is intended to be a synthesis of the previous 3.
So the world is alive.
In the 3 volumes released so far of Jacob's ambitious series, he collaborates with more than 24 musicians from around the world. On album 3, released in 2020, Jacob works with an LA-based musician and producer, Ty Dolla $ign, and UK R&B singer, Mahalia.
Now that I am sober, I take back what I said.
Jacob asked me if I wanted to be on one of his songs for his next album. When he called me and asked me, I like... Do you know what? I think my whole experience with Jacob has just been a lot of surprises.
The song is called All I Need. It's from Jesse Volume 3. Here now with help from Mahalia and Ty Dolla $ign, Jacob Collier live from the lavatory.
'Cause
I remember Jacob texting me though saying, I think I'm going to send this to Ty. And I said, who's Ty? And he said, Ty Dolla $ign.
I didn't know her. I heard of her. I like her voice for sure. She's incredible.
She got expensive taste.
I collaborated with more than a few artists. Nicki Minaj, Ariana Grande, Mariah Carey. I had so much fun making that song.
That you were all I need. You were all I need.
It was lockdown. It just kind of gave me something to be excited about.
Jacob did his part. He sent me what he already had. I did exactly what I wanted to do. I sent it back to him.
Now Jacob set up.
Да, чел просто в ванту споет.
And his bathroom was gorgeous, so I felt a little bit like I was on, like I had drawn the short straw.
Every time I think about it, can't stop thinking about it, can't stop.
I think I had my mop brush. I think I had a toothbrush.
Next thing you know, he sent me the one with Mahalia's vocals on it. That was incredible.
Откуда дым у рэпера? У него что-то горит?
Video where I appear in the mirror and there's that cloud of smoke. I think that was just VFX, man, you know.
You will always be the one for me.
And he made a couple changes to it. We dropped it. Next thing you know, I think that song was nominated for a Grammy.
All I Need was nominated for R&B Song of the Year, and the album it was on was up for the Ultimate Industry Award.
Jesse Volume 3 was actually nominated for Album of the Year. That's the biggest honor you can get at the Grammy Awards.
And musicians really respect other musicians, no matter, you know, how you look or what you wear.
Only me. Well, my friends, the time has come.
Jacob would also collaborate with his all-time favorite harmonizing heroes, Take Six.
To me, this is my childhood dream.
Только хотел сказать,
Take 6
надо представить, это буквально осуществление
my mind was blown.
They covered the Lionel Richie track, All Night Long.
Quincy, holding the chord cymbals.
Take Six have been touring the world for more than 30 years.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Take Six!
And they would perform with Jacob on American TV.
Так, смотрите, у меня уже ёбнутая прическа. Осталось только получить Грэмми.
For what our parts were. Normally, no matter what it is, the guys will kind of listen, and I just to kind of have their heads back like this. When we were preparing for Jacob's, everybody was sitting on the flight like this, listening to their individual part and doing this for hours and hours as they're flying. He's absolutely brilliant. Okay, so that's Walden right there. And we actually had a track breakdown when we went to Quincy's house the night before we recorded, and there was 40 or 50 voices that he had to reduce for the 6 of us to be able to sing with him.
Слушайте, а его можно считать Эминемом от мира акапеллы? Квинси Джонс, Херби, эти ребята. Чё-то белых там я много не наблюдаю.
And then, in the thick of producing his series of albums, Jacob received the extraordinary honor of his own night at the Proms.
Добрый вечер. Сейчас он людьми играть будет.
I had a concert at the BBC Proms in London in 2018, my own BBC Prom, which was just an unbelievable thrill.
It was also a deeply emotional occasion for the entire Collier family.
I love the Proms. I'm a frequent promer every summer. To see Jacob having a prom for himself, it was unbelievable, really.
Как же он гармонизирует! Знаете, говорят, типа, вот, как же он чувствует, как же он гармонизирует.
When he came on stage, those nerves vanished. I could just see he'd be able to do it.
I grew up in the Albert Hall. I went to proms every year.
Все сломал.
Just Jacob.
Думал, наверное, в контру играет.
This huge array of people, this huge array of energy, all these different musicians, different styles colliding in real time in a physical space, and it was extremely exciting.
Я говорю,
I remember
это
the first conversations
Eminem.
about Jacob's prom. He wanted all his idols to be there. He didn't want this to be celebrating himself. Off the record, it was unbelievably hard to put together because he had so many different artists that he wanted to involve.
The evening featured a number of Jacob's musical heroes. His mum was also in the spotlight.
I remember just thinking, just before standing up, just thinking, I'm so lucky
А мы смотрели, нет, этот кусок конкретно?
to be part of the orchestra, to see my boy in action and to actually play.
Jacob also contributed to the orchestration, which accompanied his musical guests.
Mr. Hamid El Kasri.
Extraordinary Moroccan master musician called Hamid El Kasri. He actually came to the BBC Prom and performed his first ever UK performance. Moroccan master.
Welcome to the stage, take 6.
When Take 6 began around 89, 90s, right around there, we performed at Royal Albert Hall a couple of times, and we now, going back years later, on the proms, we realized how big it was and how prestigious it was. It was an amazing experience.
I really found someone like you.
When we were sitting in the audience while we were all preparing for that show, and watching him perform with Jules Buckley and just the Metropole, it was a wall of sound, but it was a blank canvas that allowed Jacob to do and to be everything that he was.
That we will be by my side to see.
Вообще это очень сложно. Вот кроме шуток, вообще сложно даже просто дуэтом петь. Не в унисон. Допустим, я пою низким голосом, ты поешь высоким голосом, и подсознательно хочется подстроиться под своего товарища, чтобы петь как бы даблом. А когда у вас там хор, и у каждого свои партии по всему диапазону, велика вероятность... Ну, понятное дело, что это все репетируется, тренируется и так далее, но сам факт. А тут еще и, все-таки не хор из 50 человек, где один собьется и, не так и будет правильно.
It was in his playground. He's just a kid having fun.
My life is through.
Somebody said, Jacob, we got a little surprise for you. And they put up the footage of my dear dad playing at the first night of the proms.
Here he is now, Jacob Collier, making his first appearance at a promenade concert.
Somebody managed to unearth footage of his grandfather. He was the leader, I think, of the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, and he performed there back in the 1960s.
It's just the most unbelievable thing. Jacob was really bowled over.
He stood on that stage in 1964. And to be there however many years later, 52, with my own prom, it felt pretty surreal. I wish he could have been at that prom. In some ways, he was there.
After the prom, we both burst into tears when we saw each other because we both acknowledged the same thing. He said, I just felt Grandpa was really there.
Блин, концовка эпичная.
The audience applauds the performance of Jacob Collier.
It was the most wonderful experience and I will never, ever forget it.
What I see in Jacob is the comfort he gets and the pleasure he gets from exploring this world that he's in.
Absolutely.
And from family.
Yes.
From being,
Спасибо
this
большое.
gives him this anchor.
Да, понятное дело, что, ну, головой я тоже понимаю, что это гениально. Но как вкусовщина, ну, мне это слушать не хочется.
And you and his sisters.
Никуда ты от этого не денешься.
A
Спасибо
lot
большое.
from his family and his home around him, but I can tell you that he gives back in spades. He will move out at some point, I'm sure, but at the moment, because he travels the world so much and in so much of the year, I think it's quite a treat just to come back to London and just come back to this place. And boy, we really love seeing him as well.
I made this last night. It's a new idea. This year I found sitting down to make music it's never felt as pressurized as this before. Rather than thinking, oh, I'm just going to do the next thing I'm interested in. There's a lot of kind of low-hanging fruit that seems really appealing, like just do this, and you could be, and you can just take off.
The pressure from our end is for him to be true to himself, to continue to follow his heart's dreams.
Now, finally, I look at these and I think, these are the 5 Grammys.
These are some Grammys, and they each have a different tone. Look. Isn't that lovely? The only thing I've ever really cared about creatively is to sustain the curiosity that I've always had throughout my whole life.
There's a whole bunch of inspiration within him he doesn't even know about yet.
He can do anything, so what do you do? And I feel like the best thing to choose is the thing that really resonates with your soul.
Jacob, I want to ask you about the future. What about the long-term future? Where do you see yourself?
Creatively, nothing really scares me, but I do think that the amount that's possible sometimes is intimidating. I call it creative infinity syndrome.
He should have no bounds, as in he should forever be genreless, he should forever be defiant, he should always just be a maverick.
You know, honestly, I feel like the music will always give me the answers that I need. And sometimes when I feel a bit doubtful or a bit lost or a bit confused or a bit aimless, which I do all the time, to be honest, I'm a human. Sometimes the music just says, you know what, we're going to go here now.
'Cause I'll be standing on the side when you change.
And did you hear from Stevie Wonder at all?
Well, I managed to meet him. I shook his hand.
Оказавшись перед Стиви Уандером.
Stevie Wonder at all?
Well, I managed to meet him. I shook his hand. He was like, yeah, what's your name, man? I said, oh, my name's Jacob Collier. And he said, oh, yeah, you did that version of Don't You Worry About a Thing, right? And I said, yeah, I did, Stevie, I did. And he said, oh, it's great. It's fantastic, I loved it. And my life was made in that moment. That meeting,
да
I'll never forget it as long as I live.
Чел просто выиграл эту жизнь.
I think this room will always be quite sacred for me.
Прикиньте, он всех своих кумиров сумел в себя влюбить.
I think the spirit of it and the groundedness of it is something that I'd love to carry with me wherever I go, whether it's on stage or recording with other people or just traveling and living some life, you know.
I feel so much gratitude for the people around me, my family and my friends and the team.
And I'm sure I'll travel all over the world in the next few years and I'll be touring and recording and learning and sponging things up. But it's always a privilege to come back here to my original family home and to kind of lay down my materials and have a bit of a rest and then think, well, now what?
Ну, гений, уникальный тип. Что тут еще скажешь? Все? Все равно круто, что на это есть спрос. Что это не какая-то исключительная локальная.
Just as we were calling to wrap, Jacob received a phone call from the Quincy Jones team. He had been nominated for 2 more.
Да в смысле? Остановите кто-нибудь.
Oh, what? Oh, are you serious? There's 2 now?
So what's the Grammy for?
I just got 2, well, it's coming in now, but I just got 2 Grammy nominations. Oh, wait, I want to watch this.
Ну, ладно.
You're on camera, we're filming a documentary right now.
Но все-таки надо понимать, что, ну, аура, да, тоже влияет определенным образом, и, то есть, Джейкоба охотно будут номинировать всегда.